From the Hindu Kush to the Rockies, a journey from Kabul to Colorado in community-led transformation, a memoir of resilience, advocacy, and transformation by Humayun Milad. Episode 22, Agricultural Transformation Through Community Action, Revitalizing Rural Afghanistan Through Sustainable Agricultural Alternatives. In 2016, I stood at the precipice of a new challenge, one that would demand not only strategic ingenuity, but an unwavering commitment to the communities caught in the cycle of illicit cultivation. Afghanistan's rural heartland, where poppy cultivation had been the cornerstone of economic survival for generations, was a landscape defined by desperation and dependency. Farmers, forced into an exploitative system, grew opium not out of choice, but necessity, struggling against an economy that had left them with few alternatives. As program manager of the Community-Based Agriculture and Rural Development (CBARD) project, I was tasked with breaking this cycle, forging a pathway towards sustainable livelihoods and economic independence for thousands of Afghan farmers. Yet, I understood from the outset that eradicating poppy without providing viable alternatives would be not just ineffective, but counterproductive. Without strong governance structures, market access, and long-term stability, no agricultural intervention would truly last. What was needed was a holistic model for transformation, one that did not simply seek to replace poppy fields with illicit crops, but empowered farmers through governance frameworks that institutionalized their progress. The answer lay in two critical mechanisms of local leadership: the power of district development assemblies and community development councils. From my earliest days in CBARD, I knew that success would be impossible without community ownership. The foundation of sustainable rural development had to come from within, driven by the very people whose livelihoods were at stake. Thus, I worked to integrate CBARD's efforts with Afghanistan's existing local governance frameworks, leveraging the power of district development assemblies (DDAs) and community development councils (CDCs) to lead the agricultural transformation from within communities. DDAs, functioning at the district level, became the bridge between national agricultural strategies and local economic priorities. These assemblies were instrumental in shaping the long-term sustainability of CBARD, ensuring that policies were not dictated from above, but developed through engagement with farmers themselves. They mobilized communities, advocated for infrastructure investment, and ensured that alternative agriculture was institutionally recognized as a viable replacement for poppy cultivation. At the village level, CDCs acted as grassroots governance structures, bringing decision-making into the hands of local farmers themselves. Through these councils, farmers not only adopted illicit crops, but became active participants in shaping their own economic futures, forming cooperatives, negotiating market access, and driving community-led agricultural planning. Through the integration of DDAs and CDCs, CBARD became more than a simple agricultural project. It became a model for governance-driven resilience, proving that transformation could be embedded into the very institutions that guided Afghanistan's rural development. Advocacy, championing knowledge, infrastructure, and market access governance provided the structural backbone for agricultural transformation in Afghanistan's rural provinces, ensuring that policies supported the shift away from illicit poppy cultivation. Yet, policy frameworks alone were never enough. They could set guidelines, allocate resources, and encourage farmers to transition to illicit crops, but without practical farmer-centered interventions, no reform could be truly sustainable. For decades, Afghanistan's agricultural policies had been heavily centralized, often failing to address the localized realities of rural farmers. While national development strategies sought to curtail opium production, they frequently lacked direct engagement with the farmers whose livelihoods depended on poppy cultivation. The result was a disconnect between policy and implementation, a gap that CBARD sought to bridge by ensuring governance-driven agricultural transformation was not just theoretical, but tangible, accessible, and farmer-led. Farmers' Field Schools, a hub for agricultural empowerment. One of our most impactful strategies was the creation of Farmers' Field Schools, FFS, dynamic centers where farmers engaged in hands-on education, learning modern irrigation techniques, sustainable cultivation methods, and advanced soil management practices. These schools provided a platform for collaboration, allowing farmers to experiment with new techniques, refine traditional practices, and create shared agricultural solutions. Most importantly, these schools functioned as extensions of the CDC governance model, ensuring that knowledge transfer was not just technical, but deeply integrated into local leadership structures, strengthening market access. Through governance beyond education, CBARD focused intensely on market integration, recognizing that licit crops were only viable if farmers could access competitive trade networks. Through DDAs, we facilitated direct connections between farmers, cooperatives, and national buyers, ensuring that high-value traditional crops such as saffron, almonds, and pomegranates were economically viable alternatives to poppy. Under CDCs, farmers formed community-owned producer groups, eliminating exploitative middlemen and creating collective trade negotiations that guaranteed fair pricing and long-term stability. Through advocacy and education and trade, CBARD shifted perceptions, demonstrating that sustainable agriculture was not just possible, but crucial to Afghanistan's economic future. Transformation. Rewriting the future of rural economies. Transformation was never just about removing opium fields. It was about constructing a foundation where licit agriculture could thrive independently. With the support of DDAs and CDCs, CBARD introduced irrigation networks, agro-processing hubs, cold storage facilities, and improved transportation routes, ensuring farmers could store, transport, and sell their crops without logistical barriers. Infrastructure development reduced post-harvest losses, expanded market opportunities, and established agricultural supply chains that could compete with opium's economic grip. Economic sovereignty through governance. The success of CBARD was not measured solely by crop production. It was defined by the establishment of sustainable rural enterprises. DDAs institutionalized agricultural planning, ensuring that licit crops were protected through policy advocacy and economic governance frameworks. CDCs facilitated cooperative networks, allowing farmers to trade collectively, develop agro-business ventures, and integrate directly into national agricultural economies. Through governance-led agricultural reform, CBARD did more than replace poppy fields. It proved that Afghanistan's farmers could build an economic future untethered from illicit cultivation. A legacy of governance-driven resilience. CBARD reinforced a fundamental truth. Agriculture is not merely about crop production. It is a tool for governance, economic stability, and social transformation. By embedding institutional structures into agricultural reform, we created a model for self-sustaining prosperity. One where farmers, councils, and trade networks worked in unison to ensure Afghanistan's rural economy thrived beyond opium dependency. Through resilience, advocacy, and transformation, CBARD proved that sustainable agriculture was not an alternative to illicit cultivation. It was a permanent solution to rural poverty. We'll continue this story in the next episode, so stay tuned.